Oh, Great Britain, we have fallen. Not so great now, are we? I mean, are we actually shocked? Are we going to sit here and act innocent and pretend like, oh, this really happened? The signs were always there, right? Maybe we were just too caught up in life to acknowledge what was happening around us. Maybe we knew it was deteriorating, but never thought we would be caught in the middle of it deteriorating. I think it's very apparent now, especially with social media, on how bad the country actually is. You can argue once upon a time that it was a good country to come to. My parents moved there when they were young. They wanted a better life. They wanted to raise a family there, strictly for financial purposes and to milk the country, to say the least. And they did. I think that's how we should look at UK, as a stepping stone to acquire some wealth and to move on with our lives, as I've done myself. Was it a difficult decision to make? Yes and no. I mean, for the yes, it was difficult because you don't know the unseen, you don't know how it's going to be, you don't know where to go. It's a lot of overwhelming feelings and no answers, to say the least. It's mentally tough to prepare yourself. So you kind of have to be brave and kind of just have to think to yourself of like, what's the worst that could happen? I was born and raised in UK. I've seen a lot of crazy things in my life. I've been around crazy things in my life. I've done crazy things in my life. So there's nothing that would really catch me by surprise. It's just about making the step. But I also had to weigh up the options of what was good and what was on the other side. So the cost of living, of course, was a big factor. Raising a family in a different country where certain agendas are not pushed down my throat. My future kids wouldn't have to learn about certain things that I wouldn't want them to learn about, and then to be punished for having an opinion that they shouldn't be taught certain things that don't align with of how I've been raised or what the agenda was then. So with all that taken into consideration, I started to look around. It was difficult because there was no answers. And every door that I seemed to knock on had a very huge flaw. Am I looking for perfection? Maybe I was, but at the same time, I knew what I wanted, and the countries that were being spoken about weren't something that I was too interested in. I didn't want to leave something that was very bad, in my opinion, and sacrifice certain other things that I wanted. So I didn't want a middle ground. I wanted it to be more on the spectrum of good rather than being in the middle and just settling or staying in a bad situation. So it's kind of like all or nothing. So I started my journey about a year ago. I visited a couple places, spent a couple of months in certain places, culture shock at first in certain places. But predominantly, I knew that was the right decision to make. So I came back to London, reevaluated my situation, got out a bunch of new countries that I could potentially go to. And I did. And it's been a month since I've moved out of UK. And I'm often on FaceTime to my mum, and she's back in UK. And she's always curious of whether I miss UK. And I always tell her, hand on heart, there is nothing that UK can provide me that I am unable to attain somewhere else. I can accumulate wealth somewhere else. UK is not the only places with millionaires and people with money. Every country has millionaires. Every country has wealthy people. So I always tell her, apart from my family and friends that are there, there's nothing that I miss at all. And there's no chance in hell that I would want to go back there. I have tons of friends still in UK, and they are all unhappy as well with their families, but now they think that they're in it too deep and are scared to make the next jump. And I always say to them, like, what are you going to lose? Like, it's not that hard. Worst case, you go back to UK, you pick up where you left, and everything's normal again. It's not difficult. I guess it's not practical for some people. Some people have excuses that will go on for years that I'm not bothered to persuade or convince. It's not my life, it's their choices. But for the people that do want to make hijrah, that do want to get out of UK or Europe or Western civilization, my advice definitely to you would be, don't be scared. It's not difficult. You've been through a lot in your life. There's nothing that the world can show you that you've not already seen or felt or witnessed yourself. You're from UK, you've got a huge advantage in terms of like nationality opposed to other countries trying to make it. So you've got the edge of most of the competition over here. And especially being from the UK, I assume you've got some sort of savings. So investing or starting a business or anything like that is not far-fetched at all. So don't be scared, make the step. Most of our parents migrated from our native countries back in the day for a better living for us. And they did. And they raised us in a country that was not theirs. They was brave. They left their families. They left what they knew. They had to be uncomfortable and survive in a country where they didn't know the language. And they started somewhere for a better life, for a better family life. And they made sacrifices that no one would make. But that time is done. They're older now. Times have changed. And if you don't adapt to the times, you're going to be stuck in the times. And if you're stuck in the times, then your family is also going to be stuck in the times. And to be honest, there's no one to blame but you, because you wasn't strong enough or you wasn't brave enough to take that step. Now, the question I pose to you is, you're eventually going to have a family, inshallah. And if you do, why are you putting them in a handicapped situation and wanting them to go through and learn all the things that you don't believe in, that you don't stand for, fighting all odds, fighting all the bad things around them, just because you wasn't brave enough to make that step as your parents did? Are you not as brave as your parents? If they could do it, I'm sure you could do it. And I want you to really think about that. And that was one thing that really stuck out to me. Don't be afraid. Be brave. Stand up for what you believe in. Do what you feel is right. Don't be pressured by anyone or anything. It's going to be hard both ways, whether you stay or you leave. It's just, what type of hard do you want? And I'll be speaking about this a little bit more. And this is the first time of me actually sitting down and speaking personally. I'm not an open person, but this is my journey. I'd like to share it with you guys. So if you'd like to see more and like to see how my hijrah journey goes, and like to learn about places that I visited and places that I'm currently in, then like and subscribe your boy. Peace.